Hi everyone, I am Dr.D.Princy, Assistant Professor, Department of Computer Science with Cyber Security, Dr. SNS Rajalakshmi College of Arts and Science, Coimbatore. In this video, I am going to explain the basic concept of object-oriented programming. These are the object-oriented programming concepts: objects and classes, data abstraction, data encapsulation, inheritance, polymorphism, compile time and runtime mechanism, dynamic binding, message communication. Object is nothing but the basic runtime entity of a class. It is used to represent a person, a place, a thing, or any item, which is used to handle. They may also represent user-defined data types. When the program is executed, the object only interacting with the class by sending message to one another. Each object contains a data and a code to manipulate the data. An object consists of three things. One is state, which is represents an attributes of an object. Second one is behavior. It represents a method of an object. Third one is an identity, which give a unique name to an object. Classes. The entire set of data and code of an object can be made a user-defined data type called class. A class, a thought of a data type, and an object as a variable of that type. Once we created a class, we can create any number of objects belonging to that class. Each object associated with the data type of class. A class is generally a collection of objects of the similar type. For example, when we create a class named as fruit, then mango maybe belongs to an object of that class. Data abstraction. Generally, abstraction refers to representing essential features without including the background details or explanation. It is used to define a list of attributes such as size, weight, and cost, and methods that operate on these attributes. Encapsulation. A wrapping up of data and methods into a single unit is called as encapsulation. It is like a normal capsulation. It contains a data and methods. Data is not accessible outside the class, and methods provide the interface between the object data and the program. Inheritance. The process of deriving a new class from the existing class is known as inheritance. It supports the hierarchical classification. Each derived class shares the common characteristics with the class from which it is derived. The derived class having both the properties of its own and of the base class. The possible by deriving a new class from an existing class, a new class will have the combined features of both the classes. In Java, there are 5 types of inheritance: single inheritance, multiple inheritance, multi-level inheritance, hierarchical inheritance, and hybrid inheritance. This is a sample of inheritance. A single inheritance have only one superclass and subclass. Hierarchical inheritance, there are so many subclasses from a superclass, and from that subclass we can derive so many subclasses. There must be so many levels. A multi-level inheritance, deriving a subclass from superclass and deriving a subclass from the subclass. Hybrid inheritance, it is a combination of one or more the remaining 4 types of inheritance. Multiple inheritance, deriving a subclass from many superclasses. Polymorphism, it is the ability to take more than one form. Generally, a polymorphism is divided into 2 types: compile time polymorphism, runtime polymorphism. Compile time polymorphism can be furtherly divided into method overloading and operator overloading. Runtime polymorphism contains method overriding. This is an example of method overloading. A class shape having a method called as draw, and the class circle, rectangle, square also having the method named as draw. A method having same name more than one form is called as the method overloading. Compile time and runtime mechanism. Compile time may refer to any of the following: the operation performed by the compiler, such as syntactic and semantic analysis, the pre-runtime assessment of the program's behavior, implementation of inheritance. Runtime is the time period when syntactically correct program is actually executed in the computer system. Binding. Binding refers to the linking of procedure call to the code to be executed in response to the call. Binding is divided into two categories: static binding and dynamic binding. Static binding is also known as early binding. That means by the time of compile time, the method is known. Dynamic binding is also called as late binding. Till the time of running, the method is not known. Example of static binding is method overloading. Example of dynamic binding is method overriding. Dynamic binding means that the code associated with a given procedure call is not known until the time of call at runtime. It is associated with the polymorphism and inheritance. A message communication. An object-oriented programming consists of a set of objects that communicate with each other. The process of programming in an object-oriented language involves basic three steps: creating classes that define object and their behavior, creating object from class definition, establishing communication among objects. Object can communicate with one another by sending and receiving information. This is a sample example. We have create 5 objects. Each object can communicate with one another. A message for an object is a request for execution of a procedure, and therefore will invoke a method in the receiving object that generate the desired results. This is an example between communication between two objects. One object sending a message, the another object receiving the object. Message passing involves specifying the name of the object, the name of the method, and the information to be sent. Objects also have a life cycle. They can be created and destroyed.